we got ourselves a Sandra bomb this week. She did it. If you don't know what a Sandra bomb is, it's when Sandra Herrera breaks news. Follow her on Twitter, follow her articles on CBSSports.com because she did it this week. NWSL is having their 15th and 16th clubs arrive in the league in just a few years. They've announced Boston as the 15th club location. And finally, out of Boston, we got the news of their name. BOS Nation FC will be the NWSL's 15th expansion team, slated to come in 2026. Controlling owner Jennifer Epstein, who is family owners of the Celtics, and actor and investor Elizabeth Banks shared this news yesterday on CBS Mornings, or it happened Monday, CBS Mornings, and why they believe now is the time to bring women's soccer to Massachusetts, saying that women's sports are peaking. Sandra, you broke this news for us. Congrats. Thanks, bud. Thanks for bringing it to us. Tell us more about it.
Well, it's definitely an ongoing news story. It sort of feels like now, Lisa, and we're gonna get into the weeds a little bit, with this, because there's been a lot of public reaction to the rollout. Really, I think that's where we're at. Broke the news that this franchise would go by BOS Nation Football Club, and the rollout was going to include a marketing campaign targeted towards the Boston area, with a website and slogan referenced too-many-balls.com. So there was a lot of reaction to this when I broke this Monday afternoon, and then we saw the official announcement happen Tuesday morning. And there has also since been a fan event that was supposed to sort of mark this next phase of NWSL Boston's existence. But we saw, again, a lot of different types of reactions. I think maybe mentioning that reactions to this rollout were mixed is putting it politely. And, I think, as we see now in the following days, as the news cycle works, we're starting to see some other things come into place, where we are now noticing that the creative agency that was hired to do this has kind of scrubbed some of their work in their rollout video. We have now seen that website that was launched has an expired link. So folks are now reacting to that, not just the name and the rollout. And the event from last night went on as planned. Sources that I've spoken to around the event did mention that at one point it was advertised that Sam Ewis would be involved in that event. She was not there in that fan celebration event. They did have Charlie Davies, say some words, as he played in the area some time ago with MLS side Revolution. So again, I think it's a mixed bag here that we're kind of looking at, Lisa.
The story was supposed to be that there is a name, BOS Nation, but since then, the story that has emerged as most prolific is the fact that the campaign, No More Balls, has taken a turn for the worst. There's been a lot of backlash about it. People not liking that rollout campaign. The rollout features professional teams around Boston, indicating that they don't want any more men's sports teams. No reference to the fact that there was a professional women's team there in the WPS and the NWSL, formerly the Boston Breakers. No mention of that. And also no mention of the other women's professional teams that are in Boston, right? You look at the Boston Fleet, the women's professional hockey team. Hillary Knight, who is an American women's ice hockey forward captain at the Boston Fleet, she tweeted and said, "Hey, at NWSL Boston, can we be friends?" There is a lot that have come out about the rollout and just disregarding all of the eyes, all of the people that are involved in the NWSL and what this league represents, whether it's trans folks or women in general, and saying no more balls, and men, right? There are so many men allies and men supporters of this group. There have also been a lot of backlash on social media from players, fans, journalists about the name specifically, right? You mentioned Sam Ewis there, who former U.S. international World Cup winner. She put out a tweet that said, "As a Massachusetts native, I really want NWSL Boston to succeed. I also want to shout out PWHL Boston, which is the Boston Fleet, the hockey team, Beantown RFC, the professional women's rugby team, and the Renegades, the Women's Football Alliance, and existing women's pro sports teams that are here to support. Quinn, a very public trans player in the NWSL with Seattle, made comments as well saying, hey, what about us? Saying that transphobia shouldn't be hidden. And if they call that out, that this doesn't represent the league and it is tough messaging and poor messaging. And with this rollout, NWSL Boston tagged the Patriots, the Red Sox, the Bruins, the Celtics, the Revolution. No mention, of course, of the other women's teams. There have been a lot of fans kind of stating their opinions as well. And this has happened before, Sandra. When Racing Louisville came into the NWSL, they originally were going to be called the Louisville Proof. Yeah. And there was a bit of backlash there too, right? No one even remembers that. It is now Louisville. We know them as Racing Louisville. Even you think back to the Houston Dynamo, they were originally Houston 1836 for the first couple weeks. So this happens. This happens all the time in sports. What is the next step potentially? If you were the head of PR at BOS Nation, Sandra, what would you advise them on their next steps?
Well, first of all, if I'm the head of PR for Boston, I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't do this, and B, I don't think I want this job. But I will say that I think that's the silver lining in all of this, right? Is that Boston, unlike previous expansion sides, they have had to date the longest run up and build up as an expansion franchise to enter the league. Their arrival is set for 2026. And I think the silver lining in this is that others, like you mentioned, have made mistakes when it comes to branding and logos and developing an identity. And that silver lining is that they have the time to kind of maybe quote unquote make those mistakes. So whether they try to think of a new marketing campaign or a new name altogether, I think we'll see. But I would imagine that based on the feedback and the reaction, that they at the very least are open to that and maybe going to recognize that there is a run up here. The other thing about that, Lisa, is you have to run down, the course of those mistakes, because the truth is no one really remembers those things or talks about those old regrets too much anymore. And so that's also going to be an opportunity here. So I think eventually there's going to be a window of time here where they flip this on its head and maybe view it as a bit of a fumble, but an opportunity to maybe kind of bounce back. And I think that is actually a very Boston type of storyline to follow, the comeback.
As a Philadelphian, Boston fumbles. Bye.
There it is.
I should mention that BOS Nation came from rearranging the letters of Bostonian. It is an anagram of Bostonian. That's how they came up with it. We'll keep you updated on what comes out of BOS Nation or the NWSL team coming to Boston.